Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. I'm Dan Sloan, president of this organization. Our guest today is leading a Japan-based startup, Sakana AI, which was founded in 2023 by former Google researchers and Mr. Ha. And it is backed by tech investors such as NVIDIA, NEC, Fujitsu, and Japanese financiers, Dai-ichi Life, MUFJ, and two other mega banks. Last August, the company launched AI Scientist, claimed to be the first system to automate scientific discovery. Yesterday, the company introduced its continuous thought machine that uses the synchronization of neuron activity as its core reasoning mechanism. The company's startup value, I think I've got this right, I should have asked, but now exceeds $1.5 billion. But its investors certainly have high expectations. Sakana AI uses an evolutionary model merge method, automatically testing model combinations over generations to identify new choices. Our guest today previously headed the research division of Stability AI in Britain, reportedly has a thing for fish. I didn't ask him about it yet, but we'll find out more, as well as collective intelligence, which hopefully he will find in great abundance today at the FCCJ. He attended Japan's Sushi Tech last week and is working with other startups on issues such as open models and open access, as well as how AI will play a part in aspects of globalization such as trade ahead. Earlier, he earned a PhD from the University of Tokyo, also served as managing director at Goldman Sachs for fixed income trading in Japan. Earlier, in a Bloomberg video about 3 months ago, he called AI the mainframes of this generation, but that next generation models must be 1,000 times faster and more powerful. This will help to rapidly democratize public platforms using such tech prowess. With no further ado, our guest today, Sakana AI CEO, David Ha.
Thanks for the lovely introduction, Dan, and I'm really honored to be invited to give a talk at FCC. I've never been here before, and I don't really have much of an agenda. I was invited to come here, so I prepared a quick 20-minute slide to introduce our company, the current state of what we're doing, and our thoughts about AI, and maybe we can open up for questions later on. So the talk today is called Navigating Japan's AI Landscape. This is our company's name is Sakana AI. It means fish in Japan. So it's I found this domain name around 2 years ago and registered it for maybe Nissan yen. So we captured this name and we made a logo around it. The idea is we wanted to do things a little bit differently from the herd, and we like using ideas like a collective intelligence. What I think is intelligence is not just like one big organism or one big machine, but many small intelligences working together. So that became our logo. I can introduce the three of our co-founders. So this company was started by myself, David Ha, my friend and colleague Lion Jones started the company with me as a CTO, and Ren Ito as well. As a Japanese-based company, I think the two of our founders are not Japanese, and one of our founders is a Japanese person. But I'm a long-term resident of Japan. I lived here for more than 10 years. I arrived in Japan, worked for like a foreign company. I was always working at American companies. That was my regrets. I never had a chance to really practice Japanese so much. But I first came to Japan to work at Goldman Sachs. I started off as a derivatives trader. So I was trading Japanese government bonds back then. So that was my education into how the Japanese government sort of worked, at least on the financing side. And that gave me some good education into dealing with talking to investors and stakeholders and so on. But around the year 2016, so I had an engineering background, and I kind of wanted to have a career change. So I joined Google Brain in Silicon Valley in Mountain View as a researcher. So I actually moved to California to work there for a few years. I wrote some of the earlier papers in a field that we call generative AI. I worked on high resolution image generation, like new forms of neural networks, getting neural networks to draw things, and also making some of the earlier video generation models back then. And at Google, I had the opportunity to relocate back to Japan. Google was really expanding in the year 2018. They have this big Shibuya Stream Tower. So I asked my boss, Jeff Dean, to let me come back to Japan with my family. And then I was able to start a team here. So on the way, I also obtained a PhD in sciences from the University of Tokyo. We collaborated with several professors at University of Tokyo, and I was quite proud to also finally obtain an education degree from a Japanese institution. So my co-founder, Lion Jones, he was one of my friends, and he internally also transferred to the Japan office. So luckily, he was able to get to Japan one day before the border shut due to COVID. And his claim to fame was he was a co-inventor of the transformer architecture, the T in ChatGPT. He wrote this paper called "Attention is All You Need," but he worked on many other projects internally at Google on scaling up language models. He also worked at the YouTube division, worked on video processing and the like. So generally, a really good technologist. And my third co-founder, Ren Ito, he is the background is also from the University of Tokyo, but I guess he didn't study the STEM subject. He studied the law. And after obtaining his law degree, he worked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, did that for a while, traveled, worked on diplomacy, and then eventually joined a company called Mercari as an early employee, and worked there until they IPO'd. And I met him, when I was doing some work for startups after Google at Stability, where he was the COO there, and we had a good connection, and we decided, the three of us, to start this new company. So one of the reasons we wanted to start this company in Japan, well, the main reason is because I'm a long-term resident of Japan, and I wanted to find an excuse to stick around in the country. But we needed to have a real legit reason. So the real reason we had is we think that AI is a really important technology. I think right now everyone's using language models, computer vision models, using analysis, using AI, and we think that such a important technology right now should be developed in Japan, or at least Japan should have the know-how on producing this technology for its own needs. And from what we thought was most of the AI technology is either developed in the US or in China, and there's room for an advanced nation such as Japan to cultivate its own AI ecosystem with strong R&D companies in the AI space. So I tweeted this around 2 years ago, and that was what I set out to do, and we're hopefully doing that. So we wanted to build a world-class AI R&D company in Japan. We didn't want to build a company just copy whatever the US is doing, produce some apps to mimic what other people are doing. We wanted to have a truly world-class AI R&D company with original R&D and original products and services developed in Japan for Japan. So even our company is registered in Minatoku as a kabushiki kaisha, and there's no overseas Delaware corporation or whatever. It's really a Japanese company. So in our seed stage, we actually got investments from both Silicon Valley investors, Lux Capital and Costa Ventures, but luckily also received investments from partners in Japan such as NTT, KDDI, and Sony. So we started building in Japan. And within a year after the R&D, which I'll talk about later, we're fortunate enough to also get NVIDIA as a partner and a strategic investor into our company with NEA, another top Silicon Valley VC. So from there, we were able to secure the backing of several large Japanese corporations as strategic investors. So the mega banks, the insurance companies, the trading houses, and so on. And my thinking is getting the large Japanese companies to invest as strategic investors allows us to work closer with them to deploy AI technology. And I'll talk more about that later on as well. So many people ask, why did you start a company in Japan? What are the advantages of starting an AI company in Japan? And I can name three main advantages. As I mentioned earlier, we identified a country company fit. So people talk about product market fit, and we think that there's room for a leading AI R&D company in Japan, and that was one of our hypotheses. And it turns out to be kind of true. Like we were able to develop great R&D and also build a brand within the first year in Japan. We're lucky enough to be featured on like the NHK, Asahi Shimbun, and Nikkei Forum, and also the WBS. So that really helped create a national brand for the AI company. Second reason is we received support from the Japanese government. They were quite generous in a program called the GENIAC, which was organized by METI. And they were offering basically free computes for startups because GPUs are quite expensive to run experiments. And we applied for this grant, and we received like a 256 H100 NVIDIA GPUs for a few months to do our initial research. So that was really generous of this METI-run project called GENIAC. We actually won that award. So with our R&D, with the NEDO GENIAC, we received the Innovation Award there. And the last reason I can say is being in Japan, we can really attract the best global talents. I think, as we all know, Japan is a top tourist destination. People like to visit the country, and I'm sure many people would like the chance to live here. And if they can work at a great company doing innovative work, then they would. So we attract many of the top PhD students from all over the world applying to become researchers at Sakana AI. If you look, as of date, we have around, more than 2,000 job applicants. Usually people just apply on the Google Forms on our careers website. And around 1/3 of the job applicants are based in Japan. They could be Japanese, or they could be people like me living in Japan. And we also have many people applying from the US, and those folks could either be Americans, or some of them are actually Japanese people who studied abroad and willing to, and just seeing this as a chance to come back. So we see a good mix, diverse applications. So these three reasons really help our company grow. And I will quickly just want to talk about this current state of the company. Our company is known for an R&D company. You mentioned many of our research work, so I can talk about it. But our company also is a for-profit company, and we need to make money to keep the lights on. So I will also talk about our go-to-market efforts as well. So for our R&D theme, unlike many Silicon Valley companies, where the general model is to raise funds and then devote most of those funds into computing machinery, like the GPUs or TPUs to train the next large model. I think that's extremely capital intensive. Our R&D strategically is to take a more balanced approach. Rather than spending huge sums of money on compute, we want to invest in innovation to make things work more efficiently. So, some of my earlier works, I did with my collaborator and now colleague Eugene Tang, is looking at inspiration from natural systems. Right now we're building these large LLMs, like large engineering projects, large bridges. But like in natural systems, or even our own intelligence, is a lot more agile, flexible, and adaptive. Just like how the image of the ants making a bridge. It might not be strong as a normal bridge, but it's a lot more efficient and agile. And those are the kind of the foundation that we want to build our R&D. This is actually a slide from my original pitch deck from 2023. We're pitching about making the idea of having small AI models produce better AI models, like something like an AI that produces AI. And this is a really ugly slide from my 2023 pitch deck. The idea is, okay, you have already many existing models out there. why create yet another one? Try to build on top of existing models, find ways to merge them together, and use this collective intelligence of existing models to automate the development of new models. So that was kind of the idea of what we set out to do. And this is a graphic that was produced by Nikkei that kind of summarized what they thought we're doing. We're creating using many small models and having them work together. So one of our first research outputs, which Dan kindly mentioned earlier, is a technology called using an AI algorithm, evolution algorithm, to combine different models, to merge different existing models together. So we're really the first to be able to develop the technology to use an evolution algorithm and AI model to take existing models that would then produce new state-of-the-art models with capabilities defined from by the user. So if we wanted to have a Japanese language model that can also do reasoning and math, we're able to put that in the parameters of our optimization and get the intended result. So this was one of the first works that was well known at the company, but I can talk about other works as well. So my view is, recently I talked about this work in Sushi Tech. Our company created a state-of-the-art small language model. This model, we call it small now, but it's actually like close to 2 billion parameters. And this model is a model that works inside of a phone. It has the capabilities similar to a model that's like 50 times bigger than it. And we really want to use this as a platform for developing small AI that would work for personalized tasks. And the question is like, why do this? Why should we do this kind of technology when everyone else is building bigger and bigger models? So as Dan mentioned earlier, my view is like technology always improves in efficiency. And when we look at the first computers that fit in the entire room, the ENIAC, and now that computers are the size of a phone. My view is similar for these AI LLM models. I think the current LLMs are the mainframes of our generation. Every year, things are gonna get like an order of magnitude more faster in terms of performance and energy usage. And within, I think like within 3 to 5 years, the same capabilities of our frontier models today, like the GPT models, are going to fit like on the palm of our hands. Like that's basically my hypothesis. And I want to position ourselves to develop technology that would work, like when we have a personalized AI. And by developing a small model like this, it really helps us, clarify, what is importance. I think, if many of us start using AI every day, we may want to tell our language models our most intimate secrets that we won't even tell our closest friends. Like, you don't want that information to be prompted and sent overseas to an external, model. You want everything ideally to be air-gapped inside your phone. So we wanted this model to run completely locally on device without sending any API calls, because it's so small that and capable, it can actually run agentic task. It can use the customized data inside the phone, the private data, to perform tasks within the phone. So we want to develop those kind of technologies as well. Also useful for developing the characters for online, offline games as well. So this is one of our small models that we released called Tiny Swallow. Another kind of fun project we released, which is related to Japan, is we created an Edo period chatbot. So this chatbot is called Kalamaru, and is trained by my collaborator, Tareen Kranuwa, who actually has a PhD in the pre-modern Japanese literature and became a machine learning scientist. It was a really fun project done in collaboration with the National Museum of Japanese History and the National Institute of Japanese Literature, where they provided us with really high quality data to train this model. The original intention is to actually, we're helping them transcribe many of these books into their archive, which has not been digitized. And we noticed that with the aid of an LLM, you can actually have a higher accuracy when performing those transcriptions. So we wanted to develop a language model that can handle pre-modern Japanese data. But what we found in the process of training this is it's actually a really fun chatbot to use. Like if you chat with it, it speaks like a samurai. So we thought, okay, why don't we release this also as a chatbot? And it was a fun project that trained on a few thousand books from the 17th and 19th century, and people can play around with it. And the last project and the R&D that I want to talk about is something called the AI Scientist. We released the first version of it last year. That became quite popular all over the world. It was also featured in Nature magazine. It's the first system that uses an agentic technology that sits on top of several different LLMs for producing new scientific ideas. As we know, the LLMs today, they can hallucinate. They can come up with stuff. Some stuff might not be true, but some stuff could be true. But I think the idea of hallucination is a bug, but also a feature. If we ask these LLMs to come up with scientific hypotheses, and we're able to test them, we're able to actually automate part of the scientific process in discovery. And that's what we did. We set about creating a system of agents to produce new scientific ideas. We're able to produce entire papers on its own. And recently, our system, the version 2 of our system, produced a paper that went through an actual human scientific review process at a top AI conference called iClear and one of the workshop tracks, and got accepted at one of the workshop tracks. So that was quite an accomplishment for our company. I'll quickly talk about, that's the R&D part. I'll quickly talk about what our company does to earn revenue and make money. So our company, rather than being a consumer-facing company, rather than making apps for millions of customers, we really focus on the enterprise and the public sector. In particular, in the private sector, in the enterprise side, we're really focusing on working with a small number of Japanese companies, many of whom are investors, to deliver AI solutions for improving the efficiencies of workflows. I think in Japan, there's also like labor shortages where we're facing, we either have more immigrants in Japan or have more new grads. But in general, I think there's a push for workflows or the I would say the productivity to increase. And I think like AI or in technology in general can and should be used to increase the productivity of companies, in particular in Japan, so that they can have a higher advantage globally. So I cannot really announce much about the specifics of our engagement with the enterprise, but we are working with many enterprise customers to deliver agentic AI solutions to help improve workflows. So that's the first step on the private sector enterprise side. I think we also have a more ambitious dreams or more ambition on the public sector side, because I think Japan is just not just Japanese companies, but the governments and even in the defense sector. And what I know is like now in the era now we're entering a phase of deglobalization, especially this year with the new U.S. administration. I think that it's also going to accelerate the trend. And Japan is a leading democracy in Asia, but it is facing many, adversaries around its neighbors, and it needs to upgrade its infrastructure, defense capabilities, and so on. And I think we also make efforts to engage with government in Japan to also work towards projects such as defense related projects in Japan. So earlier this year, just 2 months ago, our company participated in a high-profile defense tech competition that was co-organized by the Department of Defense in the U.S. in conjunction with the Ministry of Defense in Japan, the ATLA. And we received one of the awards at this defense competition. This competition, I found it very interesting. Around 60 companies participated in it, but most of those companies are foreign companies. They're based in the US, UK, Canada, and there are a few companies based in Japan, but I think compared to US, not many startups in Japan want to work in defense side in the governments, and I think I also see that as an opportunity for our company to engage with the governments on developing defense-related solutions using AI. And personally, I think in Japan, defense is defense, so I'm actually morally aligned to work on the defense sector in Japan. I can talk about quickly about what we propose. There's 2 tracks on this award. There's a track about biosecurity. What we develop is an agent-based model, to predict the spread of a virus like COVID, should there be another bio attack from an adversary. And we show that by using these LLM-controlled agents at scale, it achieves higher accuracy in producing the spread of viruses in Tokyo compared to previous methods that were used. We also participated in a disinformation track because the government in general is this is a big problem for cyber attacks. People spreading fake information, especially from fake images online on social media. So we propose a system that really tailors detection algorithm, state-of-the-art algorithm on training on particular types of image that are of concern, for cyber attacks. In Japan, in particular, the concern is images of fake natural disasters because Japan is a country of many earthquakes. They have a tsunami, also a volcano, and so on. So they don't want many fake images on Twitter, that prop up, and also for propaganda from other governments. So we develop a state-of-the-art system to be able to predict and identify fake images that were generated using an AI algorithm and distinguish them from real photographs. So, and we also presented this at an organization, at a meeting organized by METI when the NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte came to visit Japan, and we were able to luckily meet him with 8 other startups to present our solutions. So that's just to give a flavor about our co-founders, why we started this company, some of our R&D, and to convey our go-to-market strategy on both the enterprise and the public sector. So sorry if that went a bit over time.
That's
my talk.
Absolutely fine, David. Thank you. In earlier remarks before we began, he mentioned that there's intent or hope that you'll be bringing something to market this year, and I'm sure you'll talk more about that during the course of the next 30 minutes. In my introduction, I should have said that we are live streaming this event, and it will be archived as well on our YouTube channel. Some of the questions from Working Press have already come in from people who are watching online. However, we're going to open the floor now to our Working Press. As always, please identify yourself, your organization. Because we have a rather large crowd today, please try to limit yourself to 1 question if possible, and no speeches. Will, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name's Will Fee. I'm the lead writer of the Good series, which looks at digital innovations in Japan, and I'm a contributing writer for Nikkei Asia on digital issues. The valuation of 1.5 billion, you were the fastest company in Japanese history to reach unicorn status. Obviously, there's quite a big discussion globally if the AI industry is in a bubble at the moment. I was wondering if you could share your thoughts on how helpful these kind of huge valuations across the industry are for founders looking to develop commercializable products. Thank you.
That's a good question. I mean, you're talking about the Series A, valuation, and I think what happened when we set out to raise our seed round, we developed the core technologies, to show that we're capable of developing, the new types of approaches for AI. And when it comes to the Series A, last year, luckily, it was a competitive market for VCs, so it was not us setting the valuation. We were okay, we're open to receive valuations, and it's a competitive bidding from the venture capitalists, and we're very fortunate enough to be able to get a valuation that works on a unicorn scale. But to me, honestly speaking, like this valuation is not real. It's a funny money. Like what's real is the funds that we raise, and we want to make a company that makes best use of those funds to attract the best talents, to build the best R&D. And I think the question is, like, what's the best use of those funds? Like, forget about the valuation. Maybe some companies that are also unicorn may have raised hundreds of millions. And I think I made this point earlier in my talk. Many companies, especially in the AI industry, because they raise such large funds, they may deploy those funds to train the next generation of models. And I think that may push the state of the art for the technology. But my observation is many of those models go out of dates. Like after 3 to 6 months, they're like the fastest depreciating assets in human history. So I would prefer to spend my funds, with more strategically. And I think you asked the questions whether this is healthy or not. I think it depends on how we approach it. If I plan on spending these funds very diligently to build in the words of Paul Graham, he has an essay called Default Alive. If we build a default alive startup, then sure, if we can raise a large sum of money from top venture capitalists, and build a business plan, have a longer runway, then I think that's good for our company. But for companies who are raising money and forced to quickly deploy that to train yet another large model, this could very well be in a bubble. And if the bubble eventually collapses, we don't know when, then they will not be able to raise another valuation, another round at a higher valuation, and that presents several challenges. So I think it depends on the strategy of using these funds. Thank you.
It sounds like a man who used to trade JGBs. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, sir.
It's all about the coupons.
All right. Yes, Doc.
Yeah, hi, I'm Doug Montgomery with Global Connects Media. So you said something very interesting at the beginning. You chose to be in Japan, right? You could have been anywhere, but you chose to be here. What are the limitations of starting your company in Japan and going after this, kind of hole in the Japanese market that you mentioned that you saw? What are the limitations, the downside?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's a good, I guess, choice to come here. But actually, the story is I was recruited by Goldman Sachs to join them. And back then, the head office of Goldman in Asia, the APAC office, was in Tokyo, in Roppongi Hills. So I thought, sure, let's just go to Japan. I thought I would only stay for 2 years, but here I am, more than 10 years in Japan. But I would choose to come to this country as well. And in terms of starting the company here, because I lived here for a while, even though my Japanese is not like fluent, I did pass the N2 JLPT, so I can not N1, so I did kind of pass, and I can understand. I can go to the ward office, and I can understand government forms. So in terms of registering the company, that wasn't so hard. I go to the registration office, and I register Sakana AI and pay the original fee. I can even set up a bank account on myself. But I could see for like an entrepreneur coming from outside of Japan, they would have to learn Japanese or find someone who can understand Japanese forms and go through the bureaucracy. But I think that's the same in every country. I think maybe the advantage is English is spoken everywhere. So people in the U.S., they can open a bank account because they can speak in English. And so there's a lot of stories I read about these days about difficulty in Japan. I think it's mainly about understanding the language and culture here. And I think the working with Japanese companies is also a challenge because just like many companies in the U.S., the large companies, there's always due to their size more bureaucracy compared to startups. So it is a challenge to gain the trust of partners who are large Japanese companies. But at the same time, it's not. Once we do gain that trust, there is a competitive advantage we have as well. So I think it's a different type of challenge, especially in the enterprise market.
I meant more like talent and money and those kind of things. Like again, if you're in Silicon Valley, in theory, you have access to talent. Of course, salaries are higher. You have access to capital. What about Japan?
Yeah,
Are there any limitations
that's a
to
good
that?
question. Yeah, I mean, I can talk about our company, and I think what we're experiencing is because we're in a very blessed position, might be very different than what other companies are facing here. Because we built the brand for the company, we actually have oversupply of job applicants to our company. If you think about it, say if we want to hire the top AI talents, and most of these are PhD students from top schools globally, I would say that maybe you can roughly on the back of the envelope, probably 20 to 30% of them wouldn't mind having a career in Asia in general, right? Like, I mean, you go to a conference and there's many Asian researchers. So at least 30%, say, of the top AI graduates will be looking for a job in Asia outside of Silicon Valley. And when people are looking for a job in Asia, the top cities are, maybe Singapore, Seoul, perhaps Hong Kong back in the day, Taiwan, Beijing, Shanghai, and Tokyo. And if someone's willing to work in Seoul or Beijing or Hong Kong, they'll probably be fine working in Tokyo as well. And when those graduates apply for a job here, and they look at the cities, and we're on the map, so we get the flow of the talent who is willing to relocate to Asia, and they're probably applied for a job in Tokyo, and if they want to apply the job for work at Tokyo, they'll probably go to a website to apply to work at Sakana AI. But I think maybe for other companies, they may not be blessed with the branding, but that was our strategy as well, is to build a good brand so that we can attract the talents to go to our Google Forms and upload their resume and so on.
Our next question, I'll come to those in the room. Just from our online audience, Rotaro Sato from the Nikkei Asia. His question is, what is your definition of AGI, artificial general intelligence, and what is the current technological challenges to achieving? What are?
Yeah, I think the term AGI is really popular especially in the West. I think that there's a mindset that's there's this all-powerful machine that will the prevailing definition is the machine that can perform most tasks deemed economically viable that a human can do. That's the definition for several, I guess, large companies in the U.S. I take a more nuanced approach. I think AI is just a technology. Just like cars, when they're developed, they replace, carriages, and TVs replace radio to some extent. And I think that's, our kids growing up would just take it for granted that you can chat with a computer and get answers, and you can ask it to draw something and it gets done. So ultimately, the intelligence that emerges from this new technology will be a combination of how humans use AI. I think it's not going to be AI dominating with some grand general intelligence and replacing all of humanity. The top intelligence will be the combination of how humans use AI, and I think that's just going to increase productivity in the future. So I would say that just another example is the top Go playing intelligence right now is a combination of a Go playing algorithm and a human. And I don't see why that won't be the case for any other task, where it will be a combination of our own human intelligence with a tool on a computer that uses an AI algorithm. So I wouldn't say that there's a AGI thing or not in my book.
All right, thank you. Yes, you may ask.
John Boyd, freelance. You mentioned from a whole series of large language models, you were taking some intelligence and then joining them together to make a specific app, I suppose. What were the challenges of a Japanese startup approaching those companies? Like, fees were involved, I suppose. Did they question what you were going to do? And given that those language models are changing all the time, isn't that a problem for you if you're working on something and then suddenly a whole new generation comes out? Doesn't that put you behind?
Oh, thanks. That's a really good question. So with regards to one of our earlier papers called Evolutionary Model Merge. The key idea is rather than train models from scratch, you would use like existing models and find the optimal way to combine different parts of them to develop a new model for a specific application. Now, this particular research output is an academic paper, so it's not like a product we made. And so therefore, most of the ingredients of the existing models are existing open source models out there. So we use existing open source model, and we showed that it's possible to combine different open source models to produce a new type of model. But when we're talking about commercial applications of this technology, as you rightly mentioned, it's not as clear cut. Like, models advance all the time. Some of these models are not open source and they're commercial. And if you want to apply this technology to different models and with a commercial license, then we would need to negotiate with the producers of that model to have some sort of like sharing agreements in order to do that. So what we produce, what we publicize is an academic paper to show that this is possible. But of course, if we want to commercialize it, there will be the nuances of commercialization.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Himari Shimans from the Japan Times. Thank you for speaking today. First, I would like to ask, you talked about deglobalization and the increasing importance of AI earlier. Why does Japan need AI more than ever? And what are the risks of falling behind in the context of defense as the U.S. pursues a more unpredictable foreign policy, with U.S. President Donald Trump calling the Japan-U.S. alliance one-sided, while China continues to make advances in technology?
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is actually a very challenging question. So I'm not a politician, so I don't really have a particular view of Donald Trump and his policy. But I would say that for the first question, why AI is important for Japan, I think it's important for two key reasons. The first is the demographics. I think because as we have a less population, there is a need, for people to, people want to be more productive. You can be productive and achieve more, for yourself, for the company, and also maybe do more with less time, so people can spend time with their families, taking care of their moms and dads or grandparents in Japan. So I think demographics challenge is one that can be not solved by AI, but at least AI can help with making people more productive. And the other reason in Japan is, as you also mentioned, due to the deglobalization. I think technology in general, and AI included, is very important for a country to make its infrastructure more secure and efficient. And this includes how the governments are run, information systems, defense, cybersecurity, and so on. And with all of these areas, especially in defense and cybersecurity, AI is becoming a core part of this technology. So from Japan's point of view, my view is Japan should have its own know-how and capabilities to produce what the AI systems that it needs to run them. But of course, it's a global market, so there's nothing in theory stopping Japan from using vendors outside of Japan, like the U.S. or other countries. But as you say, the U.S. policy does seem to be one that aims to be more U.S.-centric. I mean, it is what it is. I cannot say whether that's right or wrong. Every country needs to do whatever policy it is in their own interests. And if that's the case, then there is a possibility that AI services, in the future could be a bargaining chip. For countries, if the AI services or AI models are so powerful, maybe that potentially can be a bargaining chip for other countries, whether they can use them or not. And this goes also to the discussion we had earlier about like the alternative is some other countries, like even like China, are embracing like open models. So companies are encouraged to, of course, build their products and services on top of AI. But in general, you have an open model ecosystem that the entire nations can build products on. And I think that can be a good way to counter proprietary models or technology that can be easily restricted in trade. So I wouldn't be able to really comment on my views on Donald Trump and his policy, because that's I guess be above my pay grade.
Thank you. Sorry, one more question, if that's okay. You talked about targeting the public sector, in particular the defense ministry. How might Japan's defense ministry use Sakana AI's defense-related AI applications, and what is the timeline for any possible use? Thank you.
Good question. We're still in the fairly early stage of the public sector. I think, in general, engaging the public sector, especially in an important area of defense, takes years or even decade in order to solidify one's capabilities. What we're doing, especially in this early stage, is having a dialogue with the governments, especially through these defense tech competition. Like the ones that I talked about earlier is the Ministry of Defense wanted solutions for, they told us what they wanted. They wanted solutions for biosecurity, for disinformation, and we tried to produce these for them. And I think by winning these competitions, it allows us to have a deeper dialogue as to, okay, maybe this is not exactly what they want. They have this other problem, and we can kind of like organically have a more fluid dialogue through building these solutions in an agile way.
Okay, our next question comes from our online audience, Rocky Swift of Reuters, who asks, what's the latest that you've been hearing from NVIDIA about global demand for AI chips?
Well, I don't talk to NVIDIA like so much. Like they're our partners. We talk more about our strategic R&D collaboration on how to make the best for NVIDIA chips and how to make models that run the most efficiently on NVIDIA chips. So personally, I don't really get any like inside scoop about the demand for it. But as a private citizen with no specialized knowledge, I do have the view that there's going to be more demand for computes from more on the inference side, like running the models. Like maybe from last year and the year before, most of the demand is folks trying to train large models. But now these models are trained, and people discovered that if you spend more resources on inference, you can actually do things like getting them to reason, getting them to think longer, so to speak. So I think there's going to be more demand on hardware on the inference side for running the models compared to the training side going forward.
Okay. Yes, George.
My name is Baumgartner. I'm working for Swiss Radio and Television. When are you planning to list your company on the stock market? And do you still have research links or collaborations with Google?
That's good. I mean, yeah. When do we IPO? I guess I don't know actually. Yeah, I think I just want to make the company add value to companies in Japan and also work in the public sector. So my goal is to really build a company to be default alive and add value to Japan. And if we're able to add value to with our partners in Japan, then naturally my view is we can make it revenue and profit. And if we're able to have a sustained profit, then maybe IPO can be an option in the future. But I haven't really plan so hard about it. The second question is in terms of collaboration. So our company can collaborate with external researchers outside of Sakana AI. And in fact, we collaborate heavily with academic research labs in not just in Japan with University of Tokyo, Tokyo Institute of Technology, but also with universities like the Oxford and University of British Columbia. And we can also collaborate with other labs in Google as well. I think through such collaborations, like most of the output would be in the form of research papers, academic papers, rather than specific products and so on. But there's nothing stopping us from collaborating with other tech companies as well.
I'm going to take the liberty of asking a question. A couple of months ago, we had a distinguished guest from University of Tokyo, I believe Matsuo-san, who I asked the same question. And subsequent to his speech, I looked into what kind of, how is journalism as a vocation, as an industry, embracing AI? And according to some models, 50 up to 70% of journalistic or media units do use AI in some facet, but most don't. 25% or less actually have kind of a formal training or kind of a structure for how they are adopting AI. I want you to crystal ball, if you can, and think of it in terms of what Sakana AI can do right now and what might the future bring. How do you see it potentially impacting journalism or the kind of information or computing prowess that people could get on any mobile platform?
Cool. Well, that's a good question, and it's a difficult one because I don't have a background in journalism. But my view is, like, personally, I deeply respect journalists. I think journalism is very important to find out what is true. And especially in this day and age of all this like news, all this noise on social media, it's very important as a profession for the population to understand what is like true, or to what degrees of truthfulness is there, and like finding out what is a fact, and that's something that's fundamentally very important in my view. And if we talk about AI, I view it as another technology that a journalist could use to make his or her job more efficient or satisfying. Just like maybe the old school journalists did not use a word processor, and now journalists use a word processor, and so on. So I would say that like many journalists, friends of mine, might use a language model to do grammar checking, to figure out another way to write a sentence. That's fine, but maybe you have old school researchers that don't need to do that. They have a better, they like their writing style more than ChatGPT's, then they should continue to use it. So I would just say it's a tool, just like search. Now you have Google. Now you have these AI can also help analyze data. And I think ultimately though, you do need a human in the loop to make the final decision. And whatever is written, the responsibility, the ownership of what's written should be by the news organization.
Well, you put a lot of people at rest about their job future, so that's good. No, and the other thing, it sounded like, and similar to your other answers, utilization is good, reliance is perhaps a risk. It might be a danger, particularly for journalism.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like it's like AI is good at writing, is good at like conveying a narrative, whatever you wanted to convey, and if those tools can make a journalist more productive, then great. But ultimately, though, when the AI, unless we're at the stage where the AI can be in the robots, like a humanoid robot, and going out to the world to feel things, to see actual events in order to determine what is true or not, you still need a human to figure out, to look at the world, to figure out what is true or not. So I think that cannot be replaced.
All right, thank you very much. We got time for one more question. Perhaps someone who hasn't asked a question yet. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. My name is Takuya Nishimura, freelance journalist. Japan shares no border with other countries on the land. I believe the biggest enemy for Japan is natural disaster. So how do you think the AI can work for preventing the natural disaster called Nankai Trough, great earthquake? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Actually, I think AI in particular, machine learning models, have shown to be quite useful in improving the accuracy of like the weather prediction, earthquake modeling, and volcano modeling. So there has been several works on those areas, applying some of the latest data-driven algorithms on that. And this is, I think, is a very important area. In fact, someone actually used the AI scientist that we released recently. There's an academic, there's a gentleman who was at Aoyama Gakuen University, and they used the AI scientist to develop a new algorithm to more accurately model the occurrence of an earthquake. And so this is actually something that was surprising to me, that somehow the AI scientist package is able to increase the accuracy of existing data. But I think having data more readily available from university institutions and the governments with regards to weather, like an earthquake or like natural disasters, would also encourage the academic community and the research community to develop better solutions for these. And I think I'm quite hopeful that the progress will continue on this front.
Do you think prevent the damage?
Yeah. Well, one, I think at the first stage, prediction is going to be the easiest for machine learning models. If we're able to predict the occurrence of a volcano eruption or earthquake or even a tsunami, like 1 or 2 days before it actually happened, that would allow people to flee or to evacuate. More importantly, and of course, for disaster recovery, that's another problem. This, in general, technology should be able to help. But I think the main application, the easiest one, would be the detection, in my view.
Okay, we're coming up on time right now. David, we want to thank you very much for your time and comments today. As we do with all of our guest speakers, we are offering you a 1-year honorary membership. Now that you are deeply embedded in the Tokyo community, we hope you come to the club and utilize this and lead this organization, nearly 80 years old, to greater AI sophistication in everything we do. So thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dan. I'm definitely going to come by a lot.
All right, great. All right. Thank you.